Hey everyone, Carlos Vargas here, and I'm with Mike Ciavarini from Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Thank you for showing up for the FirstTimeHomeBuyerTools.com website. Mike is an expert in mortgages. He's been with Guaranteed Rate for some time. I'm going to ask him some questions, ask him some advice. So if you're looking for a mortgage professional, somebody who you can reach out to, Mike is a great resource for that. So Mike, thank you for coming in today. Appreciate your time, and I know that you've got a banged up hand there. So tell me a little bit about you. How long have you been in the mortgage business?
Well, I've been in the business probably around 6 years or so, but I feel like I've got a good background for this business.
Great.
I think nobody graduates from college and says, I'm going to major in realtor and become a realtor. Mortgage business is the same way. There's really no training in this business.
Okay.
I mean, you get in it, and no one is going to teach you how to analyze a mortgage for a client so that they're making the right decision and being put in the right mortgage. That training doesn't exist. So if you're looking for a mortgage professional, what kind of questions do you ask?
Right.
Now, what the industry does is they say, well, how long have you been in the business?
Right.
I mean, there are people that put senior on their business card because they think, well, if you've been in this thing a long time, you must know everything.
Sure.
It's just not the case. So my background was mathematics and computer science. And I developed things as a consultant up and down Route 128 for about 20 years. Things that went boom in the night.
Yeah.
So from that, I owned a lot of real estate.
Okay.
So in doing my own mortgages, I would have to do all this analysis.
Okay.
When I found this business, I really liked it because I could apply my mathematical skills. Mortgages are math. There's no salesmanship here. The math will tell you what to do. And I always say this, Carlos, getting a great rate on the wrong mortgage will cost you thousands of dollars as you live in that house.
Right.
See, the industry to me goes the wrong path. Because people, what they do is they say, I want a great rate and I want low closing costs. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call several mortgage guys and I'm going to grind them all down until I get the absolute best price. Okay. In your industry, it's like that with Progressive and their little gun. Absolutely. Yeah. But the problem is if you got a leak with an ice dam and you find out that your $500 insurance policy doesn't cover it. Right. Well, are you in the right policy? Right. And what's that going to cost you? So you see, this industry in mortgages becomes very complicated. Right. So what I'd like to do for your viewers today is I want to show them how to get the right mortgage. Perfect. Okay?
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
And I'm going to show you how to make sure that happens.
And I know that you've got a great video on YouTube that we'll have in the show notes as well. So Mike is an amazing presenter. He does an awful lot of great stuff online. So that YouTube video will be part of our show notes. So what interested you to get into the mortgage business? Was just helping people?
I think after I'd finished with software engineering, I kind of retired and got my real estate license. I was a realtor for 6 weeks. I did 3 deals. Wow. And then I went back to corporate America. It called me back, Robert Half, and they called me back to be a division manager. And because I always liked suits, couldn't wear one today, but and so I went down to Boston, and at the same time, I found the mortgage industry.
Oh.
And
just stumbled upon it. No referral.
I just kind of stumbled upon a bunch of guys that were doing mortgages. Yeah. And I really liked it. And so while I was at Robert Half, this very corporate environment, on the side, I was doing mortgages. And when I got the upper management in a conference room and told them what I was doing, because I was giving them my resignation. You should have seen their faces.
Yeah, it was a shocker?
It was a total shock.
Yeah.
And I gave them, they asked me, they said, Mike, can you give me 2 weeks? I gave them the best 2 weeks of my life. Wow. And they gave me a standing O and I walked out.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, you look like a stand-up guy anyways. I mean, every client that we're fortunate enough to get from you, they rave about you. So,
thank you.
You do an amazing job. What's one thing that you've learned that you'd like to share with our viewers? One thing that you've learned since you've gotten into the business that you maybe think, boy, I wish I had known this before I bought my first home.
Carlos, you don't shop for a mortgage. You analyze it.
Okay.
Every mortgage is different because the underpinning of the mortgage is your personal budget.
Okay.
We don't ask things on a mortgage application like, Carlos, how often do you like to vacation?
Right.
Where do you go to shop? How often do you like to go out and eat? We don't get a profile of your lifestyle. We just get certain matrix to see if you qualify based on debt ratio.
Okay.
And that's a pretty cold equation.
Right.
So what people do is they approach this all wrong, and the reason why they do in the shopping phase is because they don't know the guidelines. I mean, how can you know the guidelines? Guidelines are very complicated. There are people in this business for 20 years that couldn't tell you, for example, these are the questions we'll get. Mike, I'm buying a $550,000 two-family in Dorchester. I make $65,000 a year. And you say, how can I qualify for that? Well, the apartment downstairs rents for $2,500 a month, but it's a tenant at will, and I've heard that I can use 100% of that rent to qualify.
Right.
What's the answer? You see what I mean?
Right.
So the bottom line is you need a mortgage professional that spends their time researching guidelines and knows those guidelines inside and out. And it's called all regs, all regulations.
Right.
And it's a very difficult thing to search. But when I got into the business, I was used to writing performance specs and so forth from my background. So I knew that at the beginning I had to become an expert in finding the regulations. Once I knew the regulations inside and out, I knew that I could become a valued asset to the client. Now, I would suspect that the audience for this video is going to be mostly first-time home buyers.
Right, absolutely.
When I say first-time home buyers, they're not necessarily a first-time home buyer. They're a first, second, and third-time home buyer. Let me quantify. Buyers who are putting less than 20% down fall into the first-time home buyer category.
Less than 20%.
There's no really such thing as a first-time home buyer category because there are no special mortgages for you. You see what I mean? So this first-time home buyer is kind of a misnomer. Okay? What it is you're going to put down less than 20%. It means you bought a house. Let's talk Massachusetts numbers. You paid $250,000 for it. Now the house has got some equity. Now you're selling it. You're buying your next one. You may put 10% down on this one. You see what I mean? You may have sold the next one. This is how we get rich in America. This is how we build wealth. What I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you how to properly analyze a mortgage to get you into that first house, but then quickest into the next one for the lowest possible monthly payment. And for the least amount of money out of pocket.
And what's that least amount of money? Is it usually 3%, 5%? Is it depending on the mortgage, the type of mortgage?
This is a great question. Okay, let's analyze it. You're buying your first house, $255,000 condo. It's your first. This is the first one. How much money should I put down? When you generally ask the client, the typical answer is well, as little as possible. But I can see through online applications that this is a subject matter that the client has really no idea how to answer. Why? Because when I get online applications, they put in 6.7%, 9.3%.
On the interest rate of the mortgage?
No, on the percentage of what they're going to put down. This is flawed information. So the question is, Mike, how should I fund my first house? The answer is as little as possible. What do guidelines say? Fannie Freddie, as of January 10th, now 3% down. Okay? Fannie is Freddie March 10th, 3% down. You can put 3% down on a property. I would shoot for 5%. When you do 3%, you're going to trigger some very high PMI costs. Okay? Now, let me say this about the mortgage. Okay? In order to get this right and to know how much to put down, it all enters into a mathematical equation. And that equation is your personal budget. I'm qualifying you on gross income. You don't live on gross. If you make $75,000 a year, you probably make maybe $55,000 after taxes. You see what I mean? Only you know the monthly payment that you're comfortable with. And only you knows how long you're going to live in that house. Now, here's what you need to know in order to do this right. There are 5 pieces of study that you have to know. Number 1, you have to know every single mortgage you qualify for.
Okay.
Now, you as the first, second, third time home buyer, less than 20% down, not jumbo, you are the most difficult loan client in the industry.
Really?
This is the most challenging loan there is, and that's why I make my living here.
What makes it the most difficult loan?
Because you qualify for USDA possible,
Yeah.
you qualify for VA if you're a veteran, you qualify for conforming, which is non-government, you qualify for mass housing or Rhode Island housing or whatever state housing, you qualify for a myriad FHA of product.
Okay.
Now, you have to be able to see analysis of every single loan you qualify for, lined up column after column after column. Because if you don't, a mortgage broker is going to make a decision on what mortgage you should have.
Okay.
And do you know where that decision comes from? It could come from a company who makes a lot of money on FHA loans. So now you're putting in an FHA loan. Let's say, for example, you're shopping the traditional way, interest rate closing costs.
Right.
FHA, I can write you today, 3.25%. Conforming, that loan would be 3.875. Which loan is better? I don't know. Which one has a higher monthly payment? Which one pays the principal down further, faster? How do you know the answer to that?
Yeah.
What about mass housing? Now this enters in the biggest part of your loan, PMI. Now, everyone hates PMI. You know why they hate PMI, Carlos? Because they don't understand it and it's never been explained.
Okay. Yeah.
Client walks into my office a couple of weeks ago and he slaps down a pre-approval letter. Well, I've been pre-approved. Okay. Your rate is 4.5%. I said, does that sound high to you? And the client he's afraid to say anything. They're kind of intimidated.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, do you know what these three letters mean? They're bolded.
Yeah.
It says LPMI. Not a clue.
Yeah.
But I said, this is the loan that this person picked for you, right? Do you realize that this PMI is built into the interest rate and it's going to be there forever? How long are you going to live in this house?
Wow.
You see what I mean? So what you've got to do is you've got to see every single mortgage product you qualify for, which are a lot of them, and then you have to know how PMI works in conjunction with each individual product because they're all different.
And that's where you come in. And once you've got those 5 or 6 options there, you can hold the hand of the consumer and say, this is, and I'm sure many times you hear, if you were me, Mike, which one would you go with, right? Because you know my financial picture.
Here's what we generally say. I remember my dad had to go have his bladder out, due to cancer. So I said to the doctor, doctor, if this was your situation, what doctor would have performed the operation on you?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't answer the question, but everyone wants to know where your dentist goes when his teeth hit.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, how would you do the mortgage for yourself?
Yeah.
Well, let me show you how I would do the mortgage for myself. So I developed a system, okay? So I'm going to try and show it to you. So I developed a spreadsheet, and I compared every single mortgage that you qualify for. And then I compared every single type of PMI that works in conjunction with every one of these mortgages.
Okay.
Now, the problem with PMI is the industry sells only 2. They focus on 2 ways to do PMI. Build it into the rate or give you a monthly payment. However, there are 4 options on how to pay PMI. The sales rate on those 2 options is 15 and 8% of all PMI sold, according to United Guarantee, who's owned by AIG. Okay? Why?
Right.
Why would the best features be the least amount sold?
Yeah. Why?
Because they're complicated.
Oh.
Because what happens is you have mathematicians on Wall Street who develop what's called derivatives.
Yep.
And derivatives are financial
I've
instruments.
heard of them,
Okay? And a financial instrument could be PMI. And what they do is they take PMI and then they say, we will sanction this. This meets our risk factors.
Okay.
So let's offer it to the client. So now we give it to a person who's majored in college in sales, business administration. He becomes a rep and now comes into a mortgage office and presents it to a bunch of mortgage guys. Okay? They go back in their office and they go, that split PMI, Carlos, do you know how that thing works? Nah,
Nobody knows.
What about, can you he said we could buy the PMI out in one lump sum. Who pays for that?
Right.
And how would I even sell that to the client? Add another $6,000 to their closing costs? Who would even do? Look, I'm just going to sell LPMI because it's easy. Matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sell FHA. Easy, simple.
Yeah, yeah.
Now do you see what's happening?
So everybody gets a cookie cutter
Okay.
product, right?
But here's what you're doing. You're shopping based on rate and
Yeah.
closing costs.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you that rate has absolutely no bearing in building wealth in your property. Okay? And next we're going to attack closing costs.
Yeah.
Nobody, when you get a mortgage with me, pays closing costs if you're a buyer.
Okay.
Why would you pay closing costs?
Right, right.
Okay? And let's discuss closing costs and how expensive is it.
Because because that's what we all hear, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you go to closing, a certain percentage for this, a certain percentage for that.
Here's the problem, Carlos. I'm going to buy a $300,000 house.
Mhm.
I'm going to put 5% down. How much is that?
Yeah.
$15,000.
Yeah.
Here's what you should come to closing with. $15,000.
No more.
Period.
Okay.
If you're not doing that, you're doing this wrong.
Okay.
Now, how? How in the
Yeah,
world are you going to get all this money? How much does it cost to close? Okay. Here's a spreadsheet of a $350,000 close with 5% down.
Yep.
The closing cost is $7,963. You know why? Because of this guy. You know how much insurance we're collecting up front?
Right.
16 months of insurance.
Wow.
5 months of taxes. The insurance alone collected is $1,467. The taxes is $1,750.
Advance paying this.
That's right. Because we have to build escrows, title insurance, appraisal fee, lender fee, and there's no points here. There are no points in any mortgages anymore. Okay?
No points.
Take points off the table.
Yep.
So here's the problem, Carlos. You're going to put $15,000 down, and you're going to stretch to do that. It's your first house.
Yeah.
You haven't been out of college long enough
Right.
to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that the industry is saying that this young person buying this house needs to come up with 50% more of the down payment?
Right, yeah.
Where are they going to get this money?
Exactly.
And then when you get the money and put it down, you're not going to have anything else to buy blinds, to buy,
Sure.
fix up the house,
Or an
and do the
emergency
things you
fund.
want to do.
Or an emergency fund,
That's
right? Because if you
So,
cash that in. So how do we get around that?
All right. I looked at an article that you had that you wanted me to look at.
Yeah.
And it's right here. Yeah. Here's the biggest problem of
Right.
trying to educate yourself in the web. Okay? It's the web, guys. Come on. Okay? Here's what this guy says. So he talks about closing costs in the article, and okay, it's all cookie cutter stuff.
Right.
But then in the closing costs, he never mentions anything about the prepaids. So essentially, $1,700 and $1,400, almost $3,000 of closing costs, is not included in this article.
Wow.
Now, let's paint a picture for you. The mortgage guidelines and the way these mathematicians have set up these products is absolutely brilliant. Okay, it's brilliant
Not for the consumer, though. For the investor?
for the consumer.
The consumer.
Okay,
Good.
why? Okay, we need money for closing costs.
Yeah.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines
Yeah.
say, and this will go with mass housing also, say that you can have that a seller plus a lender combined can give you 3% of the sale price as a credit.
Why would the seller do that?
Okay,
Why would the seller want to do that?
all right,
Especially in this marketplace where there's no listings available.
all right. In
Is
here,
there an incentive?
he addresses it. And a hotter real estate market, the less likely is this to happen.
Right.
Here is my closings. Did I bring it? Yeah, right here. Here are my closings for this week. Let's see. Where's that piece of paper? I don't think I have. Oh, yeah, right here. Here's my closings for this week alone. I will close more loans this week than you will close in your entire life. Okay? Now, this person's getting $5,000 from the seller, getting $1,683 from me. This person's getting $5,000 from the seller, getting $150 from me. This person's getting $5,428.75 from the seller and getting $2,870 from the realtor. Okay? And $150 from me. This person on a $245,000 purchase is getting $5,500 from the seller and $800 from me.
Wow.
So, who's paying closing costs on
Right.
this week?
Sure.
There's one person who's paying closing costs on one of my loans. I got the loan after they put the offer in. The first question I asked them is, did you negotiate for a seller credit? And they said, no, you're paying closing costs. Okay, so here it is.
Because you were brought into the process
Late, after it was all negotiated.
When should somebody get you into the process? I want to just ask you
Okay.
this: when they're thinking about, or when they're sitting with a realtor, or is it?
I actually addressed it.
You do?
Okay, so the where you should do this is you need to do this as early as possible.
Okay.
Number one, credit score is everything today because it's going to greatly affect PMI. PMI, as of January 1st, changed their models, their risk models, to really weight heavily toward credit scores.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So if you're getting a conventional loan with PMI, your PMI, if you're a 740 and 760 FICO or higher, that's high. You're going to have tremendous PMI. You're going to love PMI.
Okay.
Okay? If you're below, if you're like 720, which used to be stellar credit,
Right, absolutely.
if you're 705, your PMI will be through the roof. You will have to get a mass housing loan.
Wow.
Because mass housing has a different,
Even in the
they have different rates.
700s?
700
Oh my God.
is not very good credit.
So once you get into those 600s, it's
600, now we're into mass housing. You
Okay.
better have a 660
Okay.
score. So how should you look at this?
Right.
You should at least 6 months out from thinking of buying a house, you should contact someone like myself, a professional in the business, and have your mortgage pulled. Well, why can't I pull my credit myself? Because you're not going to get the same deep pull as we are going to get.
Okay.
Don't worry about the pull on your mortgage, on your credit score. Just get it pulled by a professional.
early.
That credit report will have a 3 to 4 month shelf life, right? Yes, we'll have to pull it again. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's for a mortgage. Now, here's what happens. You're going to see 3 credit scores.
Right.
It's like the Olympics. We throw
Yeah.
out the German judge, we
Right.
throw out the Russian judge.
Yeah,
We go with
yeah.
the middle score.
Yeah.
Okay? So now that middle score has got to be as high as possible. If it is not, we have credit repair companies that are not rip-off companies that I work with. I have a lot of clients there, and they charge $59 a month while they're working on your report, and they will increase your scores. And all this is legitimate.
Part of the planning process.
It's part of the planning process.
Okay.
But your credit scores have to be put number one. If you're pulling your credit just as you're making offers, you're going to up for a rude awakening. Let's say you have a trade line, like a credit card. Verizon charged you too much money on your cell phone bill, and you switch to Sprint, and I'm not paying it. So I'm putting this account in dispute,
Yeah.
and it's all over $150.
Yeah.
Guess what? You can't get a mortgage. Because your credit scores are now, they're not accurate because they don't, anything in dispute is omitted from the credit scoring model equations.
Oh, wow.
So now we have to deal with that now. Guess what it's going to do? Bring it forward, your scores are going to drop. I have collections. I have a judgment. I had an argument with a landlord 5 years ago, and I never paid it, went down, and now it's open on my credit report.
That's that blip.
I've
Right,
sent
yep.
3 people to the
Yeah.
courthouse just last week to clean up stuff on their credit
Wow.
report. Just last week, okay? So, credit, number 1, okay? Number 2 is now we need to do some financial planning. We need to do this
Yep.
for you, okay? That's what needs to be done well before you start looking,
Yep.
okay?
And this will be in the show notes as well.
Yeah,
We'll have
exactly.
an image of this that Mike.
Now,
was
what I
gonna do.
really want to touch on is go back to the seller.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly. Right.
Why would a seller do this?
Right.
Why would you want to do this? Okay?
Right.
Here's what's going to happen to you. And this is what this article doesn't understand. Okay?
This is the Consumer Reports article, right?
No, the consumer report was here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Now, here's how it all works. All right? First of all, I'll give you a story. I love this story. This was in November. Woman comes to me, she wants to buy this house, $459,000. Okay? Big house.
Yeah.
She just wants the house, loves the house, no realtors involved, for sale by owner.
Mm-hmm.
She calls me up on a Thursday and says, I want to make an offer on this house. How do I do it?
Yeah.
Okay? So I told her, I said, we're going to buy out your PMI because she had very strict monthly. So she was going after mortgage company after mortgage company, and then somehow she came to me.
Mhm.
The realtor informed her of me. She called me. I was the only one who hit her monthly number. Now, why did I hit her monthly number? Oh, by the way, this was jumbo, 10% down. She said, we need to make an offer now. She's got PMI. I told her what we're going to do is we're going to buy out the PMI, which is going to cost $7,000. Her closing costs were $14,000 with buying out the PMI. But we met her monthly goal and her down payment asset requirements. Okay? So where were we going to get the money for the $14,000? She said, they're gonna have an open house on Saturday.
Yeah.
I told her every single person that's gonna show up is gonna be represented by a realtor. That means this couple is gonna have to pay 2.5% to somebody.
Right.
When you
Right.
for sale by owner, you only save 2.5%. You don't save 5%. Because the buyer's gonna come represented,
Yeah.
and you gotta pay him.
Right.
So I told her, I did the math, 2.5% times $495. I said, ask for $11,250 seller credit.
Yeah.
Okay? She says to me, these people are so nice. I can't do that. I said, then pay $459 right now, full price, we're done.
Right.
I can't do that either.
Yeah.
Okay? So they followed my advice. She calls me back. She said, we got $7,000. And I was like, 7,000? That's all you got? I said, what did you ask for? Well, asked for 9. She got 7. Let me tell you this. If you ask any seller for $5,000, they'll give you 3.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's human nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would a seller do this? Because they're human. They don't know how to negotiate.
Right.
Who knows how to negotiate? How smart are you watching this video that you know how to negotiate?
Yeah.
How good are you?
Yeah.
Where did your realtor learn the skills?
Right.
Did they major in it?
Right.
What's their background? Where did they come from? And how is it that they're good at negotiation? Okay. So why would a seller do this in the hot market?
Yeah.
Condo building, 3 units. 1, 2, 3, I financed the middle one. These were $250,000. Okay? I financed the guy in the middle. We bought out his PMI. He had the lowest monthly payment. All 3 were first-time buyers. They all put 5% down.
Yeah.
My guy has no PMI payments. Has PMI, has no PMI payments, has the lowest rate. How?
Yeah.
They all 3 sell. I get a phone call from the guy on the first floor one day. My phone rings. Hey, he goes, we were out, the 3 of us, at the Mission. You know the Mission is?
Yeah,
The bar in
yeah,
Manchester,
yeah,
right?
nice place, yeah.
And he goes, we were out at the Mission, and he goes, I know that place, the hamburgers. Oh my God, I want the caramelized onions in that bun.
Perfect.
So, he says, I was talking to him, the guy that you did a mortgage for. He says, how in the world did he get $5,000 out of the seller who was the developer? The seller was the same seller for all 3 units.
Wow.
The guy on the first floor tells me he's a realtor, and he didn't get it. And he's asking me how I got in this mortgage. How? Okay. I'm a seller, and I'm selling a $300,000 condo. I want to sell my house. I hire a realtor. You come in and make a bid. Do I really care how we're allocating the money at closing?
Not really.
What do I care about the accounting? Do I care if I'm giving you $5,000 toward closing costs like all these people just got?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I really care? No. You know what I care about? I'm not moving to the park bench. In my career, I've done 1 mortgage where they moved to the nursing home. Everyone moves from a house to another. So they need money to pull out of this house to go to the other. So it's the net that they care about.
Right.
If you satisfy the net, they will structure this deal any way you want.
Okay.
Now, how do you get to their net
yeah.
but get you the best deal?
Yeah.
Here's how it's going to happen. $300,000 purchase on a condo.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to make an offer. Carlos is going to make an offer. I'm going to get no closing costs. He's going to pay closing costs. Why? Because I'm shopping as I'm analyzing a mortgage. He's shopping the traditional way, rate and closing costs. Okay, so he grinded the mortgage company down on their $550 fee, and he got them to waive it. Wow, $550 off of $7,900. Nice job.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get $5,000 free. Now, here's how it works. You make an offer.
Right.
$290,000. We both make the same offer. $290,000. My offer says $290,000 and $5,000 seller credit. That's the language.
Okay.
Done. Okay? Do I know this is going to get rejected? Absolutely. What I'm looking for, I am negotiating. Okay? I'm playing cards with the seller right now, and I want to see his hand. Right now, I can't see his hand, he can't see mine. The counter offer is going to give me what I need, everything I need to know. The counter offer comes back to Carlos at $293.
Okay.
And you accept it.
Yeah.
Okay? And he's paying closing costs. My counter offer comes back at $296 with $5,000 back.
Okay.
Now, well, Mike, you're paying more for the house.
That's right.
Okay. Here's where analysis comes into play. Okay? And remember, I do all of this with you on webinars. I never do anything to your loan file without you seeing the math. I build this spreadsheet right in front of you on your computer screen. And by the time we're done, you know everything there is to know about the mortgage industry. You even know how I'm paid. You know about yield spread and how lender credits are paid. You know it all. This is the most exciting thing when I get a phone call that says, Mike, check out the spreadsheet that I put in Dropbox. I made some changes to it.
Yeah.
Now I know you get it.
You get it. Yeah.
Okay? So let's continue. So now you're going to pay $3,000 more for the house, but you get all your closing costs paid for. That means more cash in your pocket. So
the lender credit of $5,000, is that what, okay?
So let's talk about the $3,000 that you overpaid on the property. Now, this may happen, it may not. I'm playing devil's advocate, okay? What happens is the $3,000 gets amortized over 30 years. So, are you going to live in that house for 30 years?
No.
Carlos, have you ever held a mortgage for 30 years?
No.
Have you ever lived in a house for 30 years?
Yes.
Okay, you have?
I have.
All right.
32,
Have
but
you
I'm
really?
not the norm.
Okay.
I'm not the
All
norm.
right. How many 30-year mortgages have you ever had on houses that you didn't live in it for 30 years?
7.
Okay. So, he's had, let me qualify. He's had 7 30-year mortgages that he knew he wasn't going to live in the house for 30 years.
Right.
Okay. So, if my father is 85 years old, let's say today I'm going to negotiate a life insurance policy for him, a term policy, and he's going to get a 30-year term. Do you think that's the right term for him? He's 85.
No.
Okay. So why would you get a 30-year fixed mortgage on a house that you know you're not going to live in there 30 years? Okay? So, number 5 is to understand ARM mortgages, okay? But we're going to use a 30-year fix because I know ARM scares everybody, okay? Now, here's what we're going to say. What you want to do is this, and I modeled this new spreadsheet based on you buying the house. This is the whole key to it, folks. This is really what you're trying to do. Because people aren't trying to buy a house. They're trying to build wealth. Okay? Is a house a liability or an asset?
It's an asset. Yeah.
Is a mortgage a liability or an asset?
Liability, I think, right?
All right. Let's move it to the asset column. This is it right here.
Okay.
Okay?
This is it.
This is it.
Okay.
What you're trying to do, when a person says to me, and they call me up, Mike, I was recommended by you by Mark. He's my realtor, and he says, I need a mortgage. He said to call you. Great. Mark, tell me what you're trying to do. Well, trying to buy this house. And, okay, give me 3 numbers. What's your monthly payment? Where do you want to be? How much money what's your expectations of assets, of cash into the deal? And how long do you want to live there? Because here's what I know. Nobody in Massachusetts buys a dream house for $250,000. Okay? Here's the second thing I know about humans. You're a single guy, you buy a $250,000 condo, you meet a girl, she moves in. Now it's her condo. Okay? Something strange happens when you put man and woman in a small 1,000 square foot confinement. You get 3 humans.
Right.
Okay? Now all of a sudden, for the dog and the kid, this was great as a bachelor pad.
Yeah.
But now I need another house.
Yeah.
And I've been living here 3 years. Now I need to move to a $375,000 house. Okay? Like the commercial on TV, we'll never move into the burbs. And then the kid comes and then he's got 2 kids.
Yeah. In the burbs.
You understand? This is just life.
Right. It is, absolutely.
So now what happens is, your real goal, when you say to me, Mike, I want to buy this house, here's what I'm hearing. Mike, I want to buy this house. I want to live in it for a few years. I want it to go up in value. I want to take the equity, move into a better house, better school system, better equity, cul-de-sac, nicer area, closer to work, closer to the T.
Sure.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to sell that house. I'm going to buy a 400 and some odd thousand. Then I'm going to sell that house. I'm going to buy a $600,000 house, but 20% down. I'm done with all this PMI, and now I'm going to live here until I'm about 45. My kids are off to college. Now I'm going to sell it, downsize into a 55 and up community, sell that, and I'm in the villages, and that's life.
Right.
Come to my funeral.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, so how are you going to do this? Okay. Right now, believe it or not, okay, don't tell anybody, houses are appreciating.
Yep.
Isn't it nice?
Good clip.
Finally,
Yeah.
Okay? I always used to use 0 as an appreciation rate. What we're going to do now is I created a new spreadsheet. And what I can do is I can fluctuate the rate of appreciation. Now, there's something very interesting going on in this market.
Okay.
The 20-year mortgage is on sale. Mortgage rates have plummeted in the last about 3 months. And they've come up a little bit, but the 20-year is at an all-time low. So here's what I'm going to ask you when we build your spreadsheet. I'm going to say to you, how long do you think you want to live in that house? Tough question to answer. I understand. And you're probably saying to yourself, Mike, this is my first house. You're already trying to get me out of it? But follow the rationale. Your answer is going to determine what type of mortgage you get. And it's also going to determine the PMI and how we're going to handle it. This is a very important question. This is the most important question in the whole analysis. Because what's going to happen is, if you want to say this, Mike, I can't afford to buy out the PMI, can't get enough money out of the seller, but what if we could drop this PMI in 2.5 years? And what if you could get me to 20% equity in 2.5 years? See, that is the question you should be calling a mortgage broker and saying, I need to get I'm going to put 5% down, you need to get me to 20% in 2.5 years. Can you do it? What's the monthly payment? That is the question. But there's no way possible, without ever seeing any of this, that you would ever arrive to even ask a question like that. Because you can't Google it.
Right.
You can't Google it, okay? So what's going to happen is I'm going to build you a model that's going to show you a 20-year mortgage. And let me give you an example.
Using an ARM product?
No.
No. Okay.
Fixed.
Okay.
Okay? We don't have enough time to talk about ARMs.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll throw this one caveat in, Carlos.
Yeah.
Most people say, what do the rich do? Because the rich seem to always know something we don't because they're rich.
Yeah.
Okay? That's so false. However, let's just work on that. When I do mortgages over $1 million, they're never a fixed rate loan. I listen to this. Every mortgage I do that is jumbo, and I'm not talking 550,000. I'm talking jumbo, 2 million, 3 million, million 5, 2.37551 ARM.
Okay.
That's what they take.
Okay. Even in this low interest rate environment.
All the time.
Yep.
Now, why? Another
Right.
podcast. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. See, I just set them up. It's just,
Yeah.
Okay, now, what we're going to do is this. $275,000 purchase, 5% down, 2% appreciation in Massachusetts near Boston. I think that's pretty conservative.
Right.
If you take a 20-year mortgage, do you know what the PMI, I can do the PMI on that? Are you ready for this? 5% down. Tell me PMI is your enemy. Are you ready for this? $32 a month.
Wow.
How much did you pay just going out to dinner this month?
Right.
$32 a month for your PMI, 5% down. Let's
Wow.
think about what the PMI company is saying. The PMI company is saying you can put down 5% of 275, I don't know what that is exactly, okay? I don't know, 13,000. You can leverage the rest. We're going to give you the rest. The seller's going to pay your closing costs. And in 2.6 years, you will own 20% of that property.
In 2.6 years? Because the way the mortgage is structured.
Now,
Yeah.
mortgage, is it a liability or an asset? I'm going to ask you again.
It's an asset
Okay.
now.
Now, when you look at selling that property and harvesting the equity, 50% of the money needed to buy the next house is going to be generated by the performance of the mortgage. So, if 50% of the equity is coming from the mortgage, is a mortgage a liability or an asset?
An asset at that point.
It's an
absolutely.
asset.
It's an asset.
But done right, you love it. Done wrong,
Right.
everybody gets rich but you. Who gets rich? All right, we do it the old-fashioned way. You get 2 mortgage guys, you grind this down on rate, I'll give you an extra 1/8. He'll knock off 500 in closing, and you buy the house. Now you're stuck with PMI built into the interest rate, which is not paying down the principal as fast as my loan. let me dispel a myth for you. Did you know that a person putting 3% down on the Fannie Freddie loan, 5% down on the Fannie Freddie loan, and 20%. He's putting 5% down, I'm putting 20% down. Same purchase. We get the same interest rate.
Okay.
Why? Because the loan's insured.
Right.
There's no risk above 80% loan to value because there is PMI.
Sure.
Now, how do we handle PMI?
Yeah.
All right. Quickly.
Yeah. All right.
PMI has 4 ways to pay it off. You've only seen 2. What are the 2 you've seen? Monthly?
Yeah.
LPMI built into the rate.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The third is you can buy it out at closing. And whose money do we use?
The seller.
The seller and the lender. Every single lender can give you money according to Dodd-Frank. Every single lender. Here's the question you need to ask your lender. Mr. Lender, what is your corporate objective on my loan? That is going to determine your interest rate and your lender credit.
Okay.
You are more interested in cash than interest rate. Because as the interest rate raises an eighth, I can give you thousands of dollars more. Now, what if you're only going to be in the house 3 to 4 years, an eighth of a point will mean a fraction.
Right. Right.
It won't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because you're interest laden right now.
Right.
It's math. See, understand this. The math points the way.
Right.
The last way to pay PMI is split premium. Mike, I can't afford to add $6,700 to my closing cost to pay out but
Sure.
Mike, lender, can you give me $2,700 credit? With that, I can pay half the premium and my PMI just cut in half. Now, why would you want monthly PMI versus lender pay PMI?
Right.
Okay. You always want the PMI separated from the mortgage.
Okay.
Why?
Why?
If it's built in, now you understand why a mortgage company will only sell lender pay PMI a lot. Because once you reach 20% equity, how do you get rid of the PMI? Think about it. You got a mortgage rate
Right.
for 4.375 lender paid PMI. They jacked up the rate to put the PMI in it.
Right. Right.
Okay? I separated it. I got a mortgage interest rate at 3.875 because there's nothing in my interest rate to pay PMI, paying it monthly. Why did I want it monthly? Even though my total monthly payment to start is going to be about $50 higher.
Okay.
Why would I do that? Because I built a mortgage plan. I analyzed it, and I know I'm only going to be paying it for 2.6 years.
Okay.
So if I take 32 months times $50,
Right.
I only paid less than $1,500 for PMI, and now I can call an appraiser, get my house appraised, call the bank and say, I own 20%, get rid of that monthly payment. Now, my monthly payment, what am I stuck with?
Right.
A 30-year fix at 3.875, nothing built into the rate. Here's the big one, Carlos.
Yeah.
Did I need a refinance?
No. No.
Who lost money?
Right.
Look, see, understand, if I put you in lender paid PMI, and that's all I showed you about PMI,
Not done you any service.
guess what? In 2 years from now, you're making me rich.
Right.
I'm counting on 100 people in my database that are going to refinance it. I'm going to cash in a couple of $100,000 that year. I'm going to make on
Sure.
you.
Sure.
I'm going to get rich. I'm going to give you PMI again. The PMI company gets rich. The mortgage company gets rich. The attorney gets rich.
Right.
What happened with you?
Right.
Oh,
Keep taking out
oh,
the
wait
check.
a minute now. This is a refinance, Carlos. Do we have a seller to pay our closing costs on the refinance? Who's going to pay? Roll them into my mortgage. Now your balance just went up.
Right.
What are you trying to do to this house? You're trying to get out of it. You're trying to drop your balance, but your refinances keep adding.
Sure.
Here's what happens to you. Remember what I said up front. Get a great rate on the wrong mortgage. Cost you tens of thousands of dollars as you live in the house.
Right.
I say that on every one of my videos. I know
Yeah.
it by heart. Get a great rate on the wrong mortgage. Cost you tens of thousands of dollars as you live in the house.
Sure.
Okay? Now, I speak that into a green screen every
Yeah,
week in
yeah.
my basement.
Does
Okay?
an amazing job on videos.
Now
as I
why?
said.
Because what happens is you look at your balance after the third refi
Yeah.
and you find out that, geez, we borrowed $261,250 on this house.
Yeah.
We've been paying on it for 4 years, and my principal balance is $265,000.
Right.
Now we got a child. I outgrew the condo. We have no equity. We don't have enough equity to move.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's funny. I'm one of those. Years and years ago, we refinanced it, kept rolling it in, and they're just, you just keep losing equity. We're gonna end this because I want to have you back a second time. So I'm gonna ask you, what's your favorite part of your day? Let's finish on that.
Favorite part of my day is from 6 to 8 p.m. I do webinars with clients with these spreadsheets, and I'm telling you, we laugh, we have a ball. The husband and wife are on front of their computer. I'm in my dungeon in my basement doing these things, pacing the flow of the headset. It is the most fun you will ever have doing a mortgage, learning how to build wealth, getting a mortgage. That's it.
Yeah, you've got an amazing system here. We're going to share all of this in the show notes. We'll also share Mike's contact information. I'm going to have Mike back a second time because he's amazing at this. Hopefully you'll return.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, give you some nuts there.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Mike.
You're very welcome.
Pleasure to catch up with you today. Thank you for your time, and thank you for viewing our first time homebuyertools.com video. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and family. If you have any suggestions that you'd like to make, you can leave a message there. You can go to the speak pipe and you could leave me a voice message. Grab the contact us and send me a message. I truly do appreciate you watching our video, and look for the podcast of Mike and I later on, right after the video lands. Thank you. Thanks again.
You're welcome.